You set a glass of water on the table. Ice clicks against the rim. A single tap of your finger sends ripples across the surface. Perfect arcs, clean spacing, like invisible hands drawing circles in real time. Inside that quiet glass, a riot runs on rules you never see, and a few marks on paper predict the whole scene. Here is your challenge. Explain why those ripples spread with a steady rhythm, not with poetry, not with because water does water things. Explain why the pattern stays stable every time you repeat it. If math is made up, why does it keep winning against your intuition? Here is the rule. Consistency beats coincidence. Hold on to it. You will need it later. Most people carry a simple belief. Math is a human invention, so math should sit inside human heads. Useful for counting, useful for taxes. Yet the universe does not care about your symbols. So when an equation predicts a real wave or a real atom, people shrug and say, math is the language of nature. That doesn't explain anything. It renames the mystery. Language does not force reality to behave. Reality does. So why do invented symbols land on real outcomes? And why do they keep landing, even when the symbols look absurd? Here is the loop. By the end, you will see why made up is the wrong place to point. Because the strange part is not math. The strange part is reality's appetite for consistency. Picture a crowded hallway. People push from the back. Space opens at the front. A wave of motion travels through the crowd. No one in the crowd thinks about wave equations. They follow local rules. Step forward if there is room. Stop if there is no room. Those tiny rules repeated everywhere create a large pattern. Math works like a map of those repeated rules. Not a photo of the world. A map of what stays the same when you scale up. A map of what never changes, even when everything moves. Here's the first analogy. Math is a rulebook for patterns, not the pattern itself. Now, the twist. A rulebook does not need a story. A chess rulebook never mentions kings with personalities. It mentions legal moves. Yet those legal moves generate endless games. Math looks cold for the same reason. It strips away the story. It keeps the constraints. So, when you say math is made up, you are half right. You made up the symbols. You did not make up the constraints. You did not invent the fact that 2 steps and 2 steps land you 4 steps away. You gave it a name. And then you forget the difference between naming and creating. Here is a small mind blow. Some of the most successful math began as an attempt to fix a bookkeeping problem. Heat flow, vibrating strings, counting steps. Then it reached into places no one aimed at. It started predicting things no one had seen yet. So the question shifts. Why do constraints repeat across wildly different worlds? Why does one structure show up in water, sound, light, and atoms? Hold that. Try a demo at home. Tie a key to a piece of string. Hold the string at the top. Let the key swing like a simple pendulum. Now shorten the string. The swing speeds up. Lengthen it. The swing slows down. You feel it in your hand. No equation needed. Now do one more thing. Time 10 swings with your phone timer. And then change the length and time 10 swings again. The numbers change in a steady way. Not random, not sensitive to mood. The pattern stays. You did not invent that pattern. You discovered it. Math enters after the discovery. Math says, here's the simplest rule that matches every swing. And once you have the rule, you start predicting swings you have not tried yet. That prediction feels like magic. It is not magic. It is compression. Math compresses repeated behavior into a short set of rules. Now for the biggest misconception. People think math predicts reality because it resembles reality, as if equations mirror the world the way a portrait mirrors a face. No, math predicts reality because it refuses to tolerate contradictions. Math is a machine for consistency. You feed it assumptions. It squeezes out consequences. If the assumptions match the constraints of the world, the consequences land in the world. If the assumptions miss, the consequences miss. Math does not get a free pass. Reality grades it every time. That is why physicists argue about assumptions, not about algebra. Now watch the misdirection. When you hear made-up math, you picture weird numbers, imaginary numbers, negative numbers, numbers that do not exist. So you assume the success comes from some hidden, mystical link. The reveal is simpler. Those numbers exist as handles on relationships, not as marbles inside a bag. A negative number is not a negative apple. It is direction. It is reversal. An imaginary number is not a ghost. It is rotation in disguise. A 90-degree turn represented as arithmetic. Well, here is micromind blow number 2. Tools invented to solve puzzles in pure thought ended up running the electronics in your pocket. Signals, filters, compression, control systems. All of it rests on math that once looked like nonsense on a blackboard. The symbols looked unreal. The relationships were real. Now we climb the ladder. Home scale first. You clap in a room, you hear echo. Clap again in a different room, and the echo changes. The room shapes the sound. You do not see the air move, yet you trust the pattern, because the echo repeats. Now scale up to technology. Your phone finds your location by timing radio signals. Tiny delays, tiny differences. A few billionths of a second matter. Math takes those delays and turns them into a point on a map. If the math was only a human game, so your phone would drift into the ocean, yet it locks onto streets. It does so because the rules of waves stay consistent, from your living room to satellites overhead. Consistency beats coincidence. Say it again. Consistency beats coincidence. Now here is the next twist. Engineers did not start with a phone and work backward. They started with a rulebook for waves and timing. Then a phone became possible. Prediction came first. Hardware followed. The same happens again and again in science. You write down a rule that seems too clean. Then the world, annoyingly, agrees. So why does the world agree? Because the world runs on constraints that repeat, and math is the sharpest tool we own for tracking repeatable constraints. Now drop deeper, down to atoms. You look at a solid table. It feels rigid. It feels still. And yet on the inside, electrons form patterns. Not little planets, patterns. A cloud of likelihood. A standing wave of sorts. The math describing those patterns looks strange because your brain evolved for thrown rocks, not electron waves. So the math uses strange handles, complex numbers, probability amplitudes, wave-like rules. Here's a common mistake. People say, quantum math means reality is fuzzy. Then they relax. They label the weirdness and move on. That doesn't explain anything. It renames the mystery. The deeper point is sharper. The math is not fuzzy. The math is strict. It is so strict that it predicts interference patterns with brutal precision. The fuzziness lives in your expectations. You want particles to behave like pebbles. Reality does not sign that contract. Now a beat. Well, if the quantum rules look invented, ask this. When you shine light through two narrow slits, you get a pattern of bright and dark bands. Even when you turn the light down so low that detections arrive one by one. Over time, the pattern still builds. Each detection seems isolated. Yet the distribution follows a rule written in math long before you ever run the experiment. Not because math forces it, because the constraint, the interference of waves, sits deeper than your story about one thing traveling. Now another beat. You might think, fine, math fits waves. Then why does math fit gravity? Why does math fit curved spacetime? Why does geometry, a study of pure shapes, show up in the motion of planets and the bending of light? Here is micromind blow number 3. For centuries, when some mathematicians explored curved geometry with no plan for physics, it looked like abstract play. Later, gravity demanded a language for curvature. The play turned out to match the universe's bookkeeping. Again, symbols invented, constraints discovered. Now we approach the unification moment. You learned in school that electricity and magnetism are different. Electricity feels like charge and sparks. Magnetism feels like invisible pulling. Two masks, different vibes. Then you learn a strange fact. A moving charge makes a magnetic effect. Change a magnetic field, and charges start to move. A causes B, and B causes A. One hidden thing wearing two masks. A single field story told from two angles. That merge did not arrive from staring at magnets longer. It arrived from insisting on consistency. If changing electric effects create magnetic effects, then the rules must interlock. Once you demand the interlock, the math tightens. And when it tightens, it points to something else. Waves in the combined field. Waves that travel. waves whose speed matches the measured speed of light. So light is not a separate substance sprinkled through space. Light is the field itself, rippling. People love to say, math predicted light as an electromagnetic wave. Keep the focus. Math did not predict light out of thin air. Consistency did. Math enforced the consistency and revealed the consequence. Now a new open loop. If fields explain electricity and magnetism, what is a particle? A tiny bead. Or a ripple. Hold it. We climb one more rung. Modern physics treats particles as excitations of fields. Be ripples that behave like discrete packets when you measure them. So the thing is not a bead riding the wave. The thing is the wave in a quantized mode. That sounds like word salad until you tie it back to the hallway. Local rules, repeated everywhere, produce large patterns. Fields are the local rules. Particles are stable patterns inside those rules. So your old picture flips. Matter is not stuff first, then math describes it. Matter is behavior first, then stuff is your label for stable behavior. And math is the tightest way to write the behavior without contradiction. Consistency beats coincidence. Now, the loop payoff. Why does made-up math predict reality? Because you do not invent the core moves, you select them. You try a set of rules. Reality either accepts them or rejects them. When reality accepts, or it is because the rules capture an invariance, a symmetry, a conservation, a constraint, something that stays the same under change. And those things that stay the same are the bones of physics. Your symbols are paint, the invariances are stone. Here is another beat. Math also fails. Plenty. Whole beautiful systems lead nowhere in nature. People forget the graveyard of elegant equations. They remember the few survivors. So the success is not guaranteed. It is earned. Now, the perspective shift. Math does not predict because humans are clever. Math predicts because reality is structured. Reality has regularities. It repeats itself across scale, from a key on a string, to a bridge vibrating in wind, to electrons in a lattice, to light crossing space. You live inside a universe that keeps its promises. And your best tool for tracking promises is a system that punishes inconsistency. That system is math. Now step back and feel the strange part. Why is reality structured? Why do invariances exist at all? Why does the universe allow compression? No one has a final answer. You can describe what it does, even if you do not explain what it is. And that honesty matters, because it keeps you from worshiping equations. Equations are not gods. They are receipts. They record what the world pays out when you feed it a question. So return to the glass of water. Ice settles, ripples fade. The surface becomes calm again. Inside, molecules still jostle. Constraints still hold. The same rules keep running whether you watch or not. You write marks on paper. You demand consistency. You follow the consequences. And the water, the light, the atom, and the sky answer back with the same quiet message. Consistency beats coincidence.